The morning sun rose slowly over the fields of Hanbit. The small farming planet sat at the edge of known space, far from the busy routes of trade ships. Here, people lived simple lives. They grew crops, raised animals, and kept to themselves. Han. Daehyun woke with the sun as he did every day. The old man moved slowly as he got out of bed, his joints stiff from years of hard work. He rubbed his right shoulder where an old pain never seemed to leave. With careful hands, he adjusted the black eye patch that covered his left eye. He had worn it for so long that it felt like part of him now. Another day, he said to the empty room. His home was small but clean. One room for sleeping, one for eating, and a small bathroom. It was all he needed. On the wall hung a single picture frame, but it held no photo. Inside was a piece of cloth that looked like it had been burned. Han never spoke about it to anyone. Outside, Han checked his crops. The tall green plants swayed in the light breeze. He would have a good harvest this year. As he walked between the rows, he heard footsteps behind him. "Good morning, Han," a soft voice called. He turned to see Kim Ju-ri walking toward him. She carried a small bag as she always did when she visited. Ju-ri was the village healer and the only person on Hanbit that Han truly called a friend. "Ju-ri," he nodded. "Right on time." "I brought your medicine," she said, reaching into her. The pain in your shoulder getting any better?" Han shook his head. "Some things never heal fully." Ju-ri handed him a small bottle of green liquid. 2 drops in water morning and night, it should help." "Thank you." Han tucked the bottle into his pocket. "Would you like some tea?" They sat on Han's porch, drinking tea as the sun climbed higher. Han didn't talk much, but he enjoyed Ju-ri's company. She told him about the village news. A new baby born to the Lee family. Old Mr. Park's cow getting loose again. Small things that made up life on Hanbit. "You should come to the village more often," Ju-ri said. "People worry about you out here alone." Han smiled slightly. "I'm fine on my own. Been taking care of myself for a long time." Ju-ri looked like she wanted to say more, but stopped as a strange sound came from above. They both looked up to see a dark shape crossing the sky, a ship, and not the kind that usually visited Hanbit. "Who would come all the way out here?" Ju-ri asked. Han didn't answer, but his body tensed. He put down his teacup slowly. "You should go," he said, his voice suddenly hard. "What? Why?" Ju-ri looked confused. "Now, Ju-ri, take the back path, through the fields." The old man stood up straight, looking stronger than he had moments before. "Do not come back today, no matter what you hear." "Han, you're scaring me. Go." This time his voice had the ring of command in it. Ju-ri stared at him for a moment, then nodded and hurried away through the tall crops. Han watched her go, then went inside his small house. From under his bed, he pulled out a metal box. He opened it and looked at the contents. A small device that looked like a communicator and an old cloth patch similar to the one in the frame. His fingers hovered over them, then he closed the box without taking anything. He slid it back under the bed. "Too late to run," he muttered. "Too old anyway." The ship landed in the open area between Han's house and the village. It was black and sleek, built for speed and stealth, not comfort. The kind of ship used by people who didn't want to be seen. The door opened with a hiss, and 6 figures walked out. They wore matching dark body armor with no markings. Their faces were covered by helmets with black visors. Each carried weapons, not farming tools or hunting rifles, but military-grade blasters that could tear through walls. The leader was easy to spot. He was taller than the others and walked with confidence. He stopped and looked around, then pointed directly at Han's house. In the village, people had come out to see the strange ship. The leader of the armored group held up a hand, signaling the others to wait. He walked alone to the edge of the village. "People of Hanbit," his voice boomed through a speaker in his helmet. "We have no business with you. Return to your homes."
"Anyone who interferes will be dealt with harshly." Some villagers hurried inside, pulling children with them. Others stood their ground, looking worried but determined. The armored figures moved toward Han's house.
Han stepped out onto his porch, hands empty and raised slightly to show he carried no weapon. "If you're looking for me," he called, "there's no need for all this." The leader approached him. "Han Dae-hyun?" "That's what they call me here." The leader removed his helmet. Under it was the face of a Korean man around 40 years old with a scar running from his right eye to his chin. His eyes were cold. "Captain Kang Tae-won of the Wraiths," he said. "You're coming with us." Han nodded slowly. "I figured this day would come eventually. Let me get my things." "No," Kang said sharply. "You come as you are. Now." Two of the armored figures moved forward to grab Han's arms. The old man didn't resist, but he didn't lower his head either. He stood straight and looked Kang in the eye. "What is this about?" Han asked. Kang smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Someone is paying a lot of money to see you again." "Who?" "You'll find out soon enough." From the direction of the village came shouts. Several men ran toward them carrying farming tools. The oldest, Mr. Park, was in front. "Leave him alone," Park shouted. "He's just an old farmer." Kang sighed and nodded to his men. Without hesitation, they raised their weapons and fired. Mr. Park fell first, a smoking hole in his chest. Two others dropped beside him. The rest scattered, screaming. "No!" Han struggled against the men holding him. "They're innocent." Kang grabbed Han by the throat. "That was your fault, old man. Their blood is on your hands." He turned to his men. "Search the house. Take anything interesting." They dragged Han toward the ship while others tore apart his home. One emerged with the metal box from under the bed. "Captain, found something." Kang took the box and opened it. He looked at the communicator, then at the cloth patch. His face changed when he saw the patch. Fear flashed in his eyes for just a second. The patch showed a faded skull with the word Reaper beneath it. Kang looked at Han with new eyes. "Well," he said quietly, "this changes things." On the ship, they threw Han into a small cell. His lip was bleeding and bruises were forming on his face from the beating they'd given him when he'd fought back after seeing the villagers shot. Kang stood outside the cell, holding up the patch. "Is this yours?" Han said nothing, just stared at the floor. "Answer me." Kang slammed his hand against the cell door. "Are you Reaper?" Han looked up slowly, his one visible eye cold and empty. "Take me to whoever paid you. Then you'll find out." Hidden in the crops not far from Han's house, Ju-ri watched as the ship took off. Tears ran down her face. She waited until it disappeared into the sky, then ran to Han's ruined home. She searched frantically until she found what she was looking for: the picture frame from the wall. Inside was another patch identical to the one the mercenaries had found. She tucked it inside her clothes and ran back toward the village. "I'm coming for you, old friend," she whispered. "Hold on." The ship called Night Shadow moved quickly through space. Inside, Han Dae-hyun sat quietly in his cell. The room was small, with just a hard bed and a toilet. No windows, no pictures, nothing to look at, but gray walls. His face was bruised, and dried blood stuck to his lip. Yet he sat straight, hands folded in his lap, calm as if he were still on his porch drinking tea. Outside his cell, two guards watched him through a small window in the door. "He hasn't moved in hours," one guard said. "Not normal." The other guard shrugged. "Captain said he's dangerous. Doesn't look dangerous to me. Just an old man." Inside the cell, Han heard every word they said. His hearing was much better than normal people's, but he kept this secret. He heard footsteps coming down the hall, lighter steps than the heavy boots of the guards. The cell door opened and a woman entered. She wore a white medical uniform with the name Lee Sun-mi on it. She carried a small bag. "I'm here to check your injuries," she said, not unkindly. Han nodded but said nothing. Sun-mi knelt beside him and cleaned the blood from his face. Her touch was gentle. "They didn't need to hurt you," she said quietly. "People fear what they don't." "Understand," Han replied. As she worked, Sun-mi noticed something strange. Under Han's shirt sleeve, she saw an unusual scar, perfectly straight like a surgical cut. When she touched his arm, she felt something hard beneath the skin. Not bone, but metal. Han saw her surprise and smiled slightly. Old war injury. What? War? She asked. Before Han could answer, the door opened again. Captain Kang stood there watching them with cold eyes. Enough talking. Patch him up and get out. Sun Mi finished cleaning Han's wounds quickly, then left the cell. Han and Kang stared at each other for a long moment. Where are you taking me? Han asked. Gumsong. To the Biol arena. Han's face showed no emotion, but his hand tightened slightly. The fighting pits, I'm too old for that. Kang laughed without humor. That's not what this says. He held up the Reaper patch. Our client paid triple the normal price for you. Said you'll give the crowd the best show they've ever seen. Who is your client? You'll meet them soon enough. Kang turned to leave, then stopped. How long has it been since you fought? 40 years? Longer? Han looked away. I don't fight anymore. We'll see. Kang left, the door closing with a heavy sound behind him. Alone again, Han closed his eye. Under his eye patch, something clicked and whirred softly. In the ship's command room, Kang sat at a large screen. On it were old military files. Most were blocked with red classified warnings. He typed quickly, trying different passwords. Park Jin-ho, Kang's second-in-command, came in. He was younger than Kang, with a thin face and quick eyes. Captain, we're 6 hours from Gyeomsong. What are you doing? Kang pointed at the screen. Research. There's something about our prisoner that doesn't add up. He's just an old farmer. No, Kang said firmly. He's something else. He pointed to the Reaper patch on the table beside him. During the Galactic War, there was a special military unit. The best soldiers made even better with machine parts put into their bodies. They were called the Grim Reapers. Jin-ho frowned. That's just an old story to scare children. It's not a story. Kang finally broke through the security on one file. A picture appeared on the screen. A younger Han Dae-hyun in a military uniform. Next to the picture were the words, call sign, Reaper, and a long list of missions. Jin-ho's eyes went wide. That's him? But the file says he died in the last battle. Looks like he wanted everyone to think that. Kang scrolled through the file. It says here that Reaper once killed 200 enemy soldiers in one night, alone. That's not possible. For a normal man, no. Kang closed the file. We need to be more careful. Double the guards on his cell. Back in his cell, Han sat perfectly still. Most people would think he was sleeping. He wasn't. Through the wall he could hear the ship's engines. The sound had a pattern to it. A slight stutter every 3 minutes. A problem with the fuel system, he guessed. He also heard the ship's computer system talking to itself in code. Soft beeps and clicks that most human ears couldn't detect. The Kia door opened again. Sun Mi came in with a tray of food. You should eat, she said. Han took the tray. Thank you. As she turned to leave, Han spoke again. The ship's engine has a problem. Sun Mi looked surprised. How could you know that? I hear it. Han took a bite of food. The fuel injector is loose. If it's not fixed, it could cause trouble. Sun Mi stared at him. I'll tell the engineer. After she left, Han ate slowly. Then he moved to the corner of the cell where cameras couldn't see well. He touched his eye patch. Under it, his artificial eye glowed softly. He whispered something too quiet for anyone to hear. In the ship's computer system, something changed. A small program activated. No one noticed. 3 hours later, alarms screamed throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in every room. What's happening? Kang shouted as he ran into the command room. Another ship attacked us. Jin-ho pointed at the screen. They came out of nowhere. Outside, a large black ship fired at them. The night shadow shook with each hit. Return fire, Kang ordered. But before they could shoot back, a massive explosion rocked the ship. The lights went out, then emergency power came on, casting everything in dim red light. Hull breach in Section 4. Someone yelled. Kang grabbed the intercom. All crew to battle stations. Medical team to Section 4. In his cell, Han felt the ship shake. The door to his cell had opened automatically when the power failed. Emergency systems. He stepped into the hallway. No guards. They had run to help with the attack. Han moved quickly through the ship. He knew exactly where he was going, as if he had a map in his head. He reached Section 4 and found chaos. Part of the wall had been blown open. Emergency doors had closed to keep air in the ship. But beyond them, Sunmi was trapped. She banged on the door, her face filled with fear as air leaked from the room. Han went to the door controls. They were locked, needing Captain's authorization. He placed his hand on the control panel. Something in his fingers clicked, and tiny wires extended from under his fingernails into the panel. He closed his eye in concentration. The door suddenly opened. Han rushed in, grabbed Sunmi, and pulled her out just as the room's air vented completely into space. The emergency door closed behind them. Sunmi stared at him in shock. "How did you open that door? How did you know I was here?" Before Han could answer, guards appeared, weapons pointed at him. "Back to your cell," one shouted. Han raised his hand slowly. "Just helping." As they led him away, Sunmi called after him. "Thank you." Han glanced back. "We're even now." In his cell again, Han heard the sounds of battle end. The attacking ship had left. They were moving again, continuing to Gumsong. To the arena. Han sat back on his bed and waited. The eye beneath his patch glowed briefly, then went dark again. He had what he needed now, control of part of the ship's computer system. A small advantage, but enough. "Almost time," he whispered, to himself. The ship moved steadily toward Gumsong, carrying its dangerous cargo, an old man who was much more than he seemed. The planet Gumsong shone like a jewel in space. From above, it looked beautiful, blue oceans, green lands, and bright city lights. But beauty can hide ugly things. The night shadow landed at a busy spaceport. Tall buildings sparkled in the sunlight. Rich people in fancy clothes walked past poor people in rags. Gumsong was a planet of extremes. Great wealth and deep poverty side by side. In the middle of the largest city stood the Biol Arena. It was huge, bigger than 10 stadiums put together. Its walls were black metal with glowing blue lines. Screens outside showed fighters battling, blood splashing, crowds cheering. Guards led Han from the ship in chains. He walked slowly but with his head high. People stopped to stare at the old man. Some laughed. What was this old farmer doing here? The arena was for strong fighters, not gray-haired men with eye patches. Captain Kang walked beside Han. "Welcome to your new home, Reaper, at least until you die in the arena." Han said nothing. His eye took in everything: exits, guard positions, security cameras. Old habits. They entered through a back door marked "Fighters Only." Inside was a long hallway, with cells on both sides. In each cell was a fighter, some human, some alien, all looking dangerous. They reached the end of the hall and Kang opened the last cell. "In you go," he said, pushing Han inside. "Your fight is tomorrow night. Main event." "Who am I fighting?" Kang smiled coldly. "The Executioner, arena champion for 3 years. No one has lasted more than 5 minutes against him." Han's face showed no fear. "And if I win?" Kang laughed. "Then you get to meet your biggest fan, the one who paid us to bring you here." He left, locking the door behind him. Han sat on the small bed in the cell. Across from him was another bed. He wasn't alone. From the shadows came a young man. He was Korean, maybe 25 years old, with short black hair and a scar above his right eye. "Hello," the young man said nervously. "I'm Choi Dong-wook." Han Dae-hyun. Dong-wook nodded. "They put us together because we're both fighting tomorrow. You're the main event. I'm in the fight before yours." His voice shook slightly. "I'm scared." Han looked at him closely. The young man reminded him of someone from long ago, himself perhaps before the war changed everything. First time in the arena? Han asked. Yes. I was a ship engineer. Pirates attacked us. They killed everyone else but sold me to the arena. Dongwook sat on his bed. I'm not a fighter. I won't survive tomorrow. Han was quiet for a moment. Then, he stood up. Show me your fighting stance. What? Show me how you stand to fight. Dongwook stood awkwardly, fists raised. Han shook his head. No. Like this. He moved Dongwook's feet wider apart, adjusted his arms. Balance is everything. When you have good balance, you have control. For the next hour, Han showed Dongwook basic fighting moves. Other fighters in nearby cells watched through their bars. Soon they were calling out questions. Hey, old man, how do you break a chokehold? What's the best way to block a knife? Han answered each question with simple, clear instructions. He showed them moves that didn't need much strength, ways to use an opponent's weight against them. The guards let them talk. It was good entertainment. By evening, Han had a crowd of fighters listening to him. He told stories about fighting, but they weren't really about fighting. They were about thinking clearly, about finding weak spots, about never giving up. As night fell, the fighters returned to their cells. Dongwook looked at Han with new respect. You're not just a farmer, are you? Han smiled slightly. We all have pasts. In the morning, guards came with food. As Han ate, a woman entered the cell block. She wore an expensive black suit with a blue pin showing the arena logo. Her hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes were sharp and cold. I am Yunjia, arena manager, she announced. Today's fights start in 4 hours. Those scheduled to fight, prepare yourselves. She stopped at Han's cell. So you're the special guest. You don't look like much. Sorry to disappoint, Han said calmly. We'll see if you're worth the trouble. Your fight is against the executioner. It's a death match. Who arranged this? Jia smiled thinly. Your old friend will reveal himself after the fight, if you survive. She walked away, heels clicking on the hard floor. Later, guards took Dongwook away for his fight. Han gave him a nod of encouragement. Then he was alone in the cell, or so he thought. Han. A soft voice called from the air vent near the ceiling. Han looked up. Sunmi? The ship's medic peered through the vent. I don't have much time. I bribed a guard to let me in this far. Why? To warn you. Captain Kang found out who hired us. Sunmi looked around nervously. It's General Baek Sang-moon. Han's face went pale. Baek is dead. I saw him die in the war. He survived. He's been building a private army. The captain thinks this whole thing is a trap, either to kill you or to force you back into service. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Sunmi whispered, "Be careful," and disappeared from the vent. Han sat down heavily. General Baek alive? It couldn't be. The man who had created the Reaper program. The man who had turned Han into a living weapon. The man who had ordered the mission that cost Han everything he loved. Before Han could think more about this, the door opened. Guards stood there. Time for the fights. They led Han to a waiting area. A large screen showed the arena floor. Dongwook was fighting now against a bigger opponent. Han watched closely. To everyone's surprise, Dongwook was doing well. He used the moves Han had taught him, staying balanced, using his opponent's weight against him. When the bigger fighter charged, Dongwook stepped aside and tripped him. The crowd roared. After 10 minutes, Dongwook won. The crowd cheered as he stood in the center of the arena, looking shocked but happy. Guards brought him back to the waiting area. He was sweaty and had a cut on his cheek, but he was smiling. I won, he said to Han. Your techniques worked. Han nodded. Good job. A voice boomed over speakers. And now, our main event. The arena went dark. A spotlight hit the center of the floor. A special treat tonight, the announcer called. A mystery challenger from the outer rim. Some say he's just an old farmer. Others say he's a ghost from the war. Tonight we find out. Guards pushed Han toward the entrance to the arena floor. The crowd was chanting, fresh meat, and his opponent, the announcer continued, the undefeated champion of Baal Arena, the Executioner. From the other side of the arena came a massive figure. He was over 7 feet tall with metal parts covering half his body. His right arm was a giant blade. His eyes glowed red in his metal face. In a luxury box high above the arena floor, a gray-haired man watched through special glasses. Next to him stood Captain Kang, looking uncomfortable. "Is that him?" the gray-haired man asked. "Is that really Reaper?" "Yes, General Baek," Kang answered. "Though he's older now, weaker." "General," Peg Sang-moon smiled coldly. "We'll see about that." Down in the arena, guards pushed Han into the center of the floor. The crowd booed and laughed at the sight of the old man. He looked small and frail next to the Executioner. The announcer's voice filled the arena. "Fight begins in 3, 2, 1. The Executioner charged forward, blade arm raised to strike. Han stood perfectly still. Slowly, he reached up to his eye patch. The crowd went silent as Han reached for his eye patch. Even the Executioner paused his charge, blade arm still raised. Everyone watched as the old man's fingers touched the black cloth that covered his left eye. With one smooth motion, Han removed the patch. There was no empty socket beneath. Instead, a mechanical eye glowed bright blue. It whirred softly as targeting systems came online. Lines of light spread from the eye across Han's face like veins. His body straightened, and years seemed to fall away from him. The arena's speakers suddenly crackled. A computer voice announced, "Combat profile detected, call sign Reaper, full systems online." The Executioner recovered from his surprise and swung his blade arm. It cut through the air with a sharp whistle, but hit nothing. Han was no longer there. He had moved so fast that most eyes couldn't follow him. Now Han stood behind the Executioner. His movements were no longer those of an old man. They were precise, fluid, perfect. Before the Executioner could turn, Han struck 3 times at specific points on his opponent's back. The huge fighter's left arm went limp. The crowd gasped. No one had ever damaged the Executioner so easily. With an angry roar, the Executioner spun around, swinging his blade wildly. Han dodged each attack, moving like water. He wasn't just avoiding the strikes. He was studying his opponent, noting every weakness in the cyborg's design. In the luxury box, General Baek leaned forward, eyes wide. "It really is him," he whispered. "After all these years, Reaper still functions perfectly." Captain Kang watched in shock. The old farmer he had beaten and dragged across the galaxy was gone. In his place was something else. Part man, part machine, all deadly skill. Down in the arena, the Executioner grew more frustrated with each missed attack. His movements became wilder, less controlled. Han remained calm, conserving energy, waiting for the right moment. That moment came when the Executioner raised his blade high for a powerful downward strike. As the blade came down, Han stepped forward instead of back. He moved inside the strike zone, too close for the blade to hit him. His hand shot out and pressed against a spot where metal met flesh on the Executioner's chest. What happened next was invisible to most watchers. Tiny filaments extended from Han's fingertips, connecting with the Executioner's systems. In less than a second, Han sent a carefully coded signal through these connections. The Executioner froze. His red eyes flickered, then went dark. His massive body swayed, then fell to the ground with a thunderous crash. The arena was completely silent. Then someone in the crowd shouted, "He killed the Executioner!" "No." Han's voice rang out clearly. "He lives. I only shut down his combat systems." The crowd didn't know how to react. Some booed at being denied a death, others cheered at seeing something new. All were amazed. Guards rushed into the arena, surrounding Han with weapons pointed at him. Yoon-jia's voice came over the speakers. "The winner by technical knockout, Reaper." Han stood calmly as the guards led him from the arena floor. His mechanical eye continued to glow, scanning everything around him. They took him to a richly decorated room with thick carpets and fine furniture. The door locked behind him. Han waited, standing in the center of the room, perfectly still. Minutes later, the door opened. General Baek Sang-moon entered, flanked by 4 armed guards. The general was older now, hair gray, face lined, but his eyes were the same, cold and calculating. He walked with a slight limp and used a cane. "Reaper," Baek said, smiling. "Or should I call you Han Dae-hyun? It's been a long time." "You were reported dead," Han replied. His voice had changed, too, deeper, more mechanical. "Reports can be wrong." Baek sat in a large chair. "I've been looking for you for a very long time." "Why?" Han's mechanical eye focused on the general. "Because I need you. The Reaper program was the most successful military project in history. You were its greatest achievement." Baek leaned forward. "And now I need you again." "For what?" "They're coming back, Reaper. The alien force we fought 40 years ago, they've regrouped. My sources tell me they'll attack within a year." Baek's face grew serious. "I've been building a new army, but I need you to lead them." Han was silent for a moment. Then he said, "The Reaper program was a mistake. It killed most of the soldiers you put through it. Their minds couldn't handle the machine parts. But yours did," Baek pointed out. "You survived. You thrived. At what cost?" Han's human eye showed deep sadness. "I've spent 40 years trying to be human again. This eye patch isn't just to hide what I am. It's a special interface I created. When I wear it, it shuts down most of my systems, lets my humanity come back." Baek waved his hand dismissively. "Humanity is overrated. Power is what matters. You haven't changed. Neither have you." Baek stood up. "I have a new recruit for you. That young fighter who won today, Choi Dong-wook. He's the first of the new Reapers." Han's face hardened. "No, I won't let you destroy more lives. You don't have a choice." Baek nodded to his guards. "Either you join me willingly or I'll take what I need from your body after you're dead." Suddenly alarms blared throughout the building. Lights flashed. Red. A guard burst into the room. "Sir, the arena's systems are being hacked. Someone's broadcasting classified files to every screen on the planet." On a wall screen, images appeared. Secret files about illegal experiments, pictures of failed test subjects, plans for building a secret army. Among them was a picture of General Baek giving orders to attack civilian targets during the war. "What is this?" Baek shouted. "Who's doing this?" Han smiled slightly. "You forgot about her, didn't you?" "Who?" "Kim Ju-ri, my tech specialist, the best hacker in the Reaper program. She went into hiding with me." In the arena's main control room, Kim Ju-ri, the village healer from Hanbit, worked quickly at the computer terminals. Her fingers moved with inhuman speed, bypassing security systems with ease. Like Han, she was more than she appeared to be. Back in the luxury room, Baek pointed at Han. "Kill him," he ordered his guards. Before they could fire, the door burst open. Captain Kang and Lee Sunmi rushed in, weapons drawn. But they weren't aiming at Han, they were aiming at Baek's guards. "What is this?" Baek demanded. "Change of contract," Kang said. "We don't work for war criminals." Fighting broke out in the hallways as Baek's forces clashed with arena security and some of the wraiths who had switched sides. Han put his eye patch back on. The blue glow faded and he looked like an old man again. He turned to Kang. "We need to get to the fighters' cells, free them." "Already done," Sunmi said. "Your friend Dong-wook is leading them to our ship." They fought their way through the arena, Han moving with deadly grace even with his systems dampened by the eye patch. They reached the landing pad where the Night Shadow waited. Dong-wook and the other freed fighters were already aboard. As they prepared to take off, Ju-ri joined them carrying data drives. "I got everything," she said to Han. "All of Baek's files, his whole operation." Han nodded. "Good to see you, old friend." As the ship lifted off, Dong-wook approached Han. "What happens now?" he asked. Han looked at the former arena fighters gathered in the ship's main hold. Now we find the others, he said. There are more like us out there, people Bayek has used. We'll find them and free them. Will you teach us? Dongwook asked. How to use our abilities but stay human? Han touched his eye patch. That's the plan. As the ship broke through Gumsung's atmosphere into open space, Han stood at the viewport looking at the stars. They wanted a weapon, he said quietly. But we choose to be shields instead.